The desert night is unusually quiet, but beneath that silence, something massive is unfolding. Satellites track movement. Warships shift positions in the dark waters. And thousands of miles away, elite U.S. paratroopers prepare for one of the most dangerous missions in modern military history. At the center of it all lies the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow passage, but one that carries nearly a fifth of the world's oil. Every day, massive tankers pass through this corridor, fueling economies across continents. But now, that flow is under threat. Iran has tightened its grip on the region, restricting movement and reportedly forcing ships to either turn back or pay enormous fees for safe passage. Global shipping has slowed to a crawl. Energy markets are reacting. Prices are rising. And behind closed doors, world leaders are scrambling for answers. The United States has responded with speed and precision. Over 2,000 troops from the 82nd Airborne Division have been deployed as part of a rapid response operation. This is not a symbolic move. This is a signal. The 82nd is trained for one purpose: to move fast, hit hard, and secure critical objectives before the enemy can react. Their potential target is one of the most strategically valuable locations in the region, Karg Island. This small island carries enormous weight. It serves as the primary export terminal for Iran's oil industry. Nearly 90% of the country's oil exports flow through this single point. Tankers line up offshore, waiting to load millions of barrels that keep Iran's economy alive. If that island is taken, disabled, or even temporarily shut down, the consequences would be immediate and devastating. Iran would lose a major portion of its revenue stream almost overnight. The pressure would be immense. But this is where the situation becomes far more dangerous. Paratroopers are powerful, but they are also vulnerable. The 82nd Airborne specializes in rapid insertion, often dropping into hostile territory with limited heavy equipment. They rely on speed, coordination, and surprise. But if that surprise is lost, they can quickly find themselves exposed. Iran is not unprepared. Its military has spent years building layered defenses across the coastline. Missile systems, fast attack boats, drones, and fortified positions are all designed to respond quickly to any incursion. If U.S. forces attempt to land on Karg Island, they could face immediate resistance. And that resistance could escalate fast. To counter this, the U.S. has deployed additional assets into the region, including Marine Expeditionary Units. These are not just support forces. They are fully equipped combat groups, capable of launching amphibious assaults, deploying armored vehicles, and providing close air support. Helicopters, fighter jets, and naval artillery all become part of a larger, coordinated strategy. The goal is clear: overwhelm defenses, secure the objective, and maintain control. But even with that firepower, nothing is guaranteed. Iran has options, and some of them are extreme. One possibility is scorched earth. If Iranian forces believe they cannot hold Karg Island, they could destroy key oil infrastructure before retreating. Storage tanks, pipelines, and loading facilities could be set ablaze, turning the island into a burning asset rather than allowing it to fall intact. Another possibility is retaliation beyond the island itself. Missile strikes could target U.S. positions, ships, or nearby bases. The region is packed with military assets from multiple countries, and a single miscalculation could trigger a much wider conflict. And then there's the psychological battlefield. While military forces move into position, a different kind of war is unfolding, one of information, messaging, and perception. Statements about ceasefire talks have begun to surface. Claims and counterclaims fill the airwaves. Each side is trying to control the narrative. From one perspective, negotiations may be underway. From another, they may be nothing more than strategic distraction. This dual approach, preparing for war while talking about peace, creates uncertainty. And in modern conflict, uncertainty can be just as powerful as weapons. Meanwhile, the strait itself remains the ultimate prize. If it stays blocked, the global economy feels the impact. Oil prices surge. Supply chains tighten. Political pressure builds in countries far removed from the conflict zone. If it reopens, stability begins to return. Markets calm. Trade resumes. But reopening it by force comes with its own risks. Because once troops land, once shots are fired, and once positions are taken, the situation becomes far harder to control. This is not just about one island or one waterway. It's about influence, leverage, and the balance of power in one of the most critical regions on Earth. The presence of U.S. paratroopers sends a clear message that the United States is willing to act, and act quickly. But it also raises a critical question that is this a show of force designed to pressure Iran into backing down? Or is it the opening phase of a much larger operation? History has shown that conflicts in this region rarely stay contained. What begins as a limited objective can evolve into something far more complex. All it takes is one misstep. One miscalculation, one moment where restraint gives way to reaction. For now, the world watches and waits. Troops remain on standby. Ships hold their positions. Aircraft continue their patrols. And the Strait of Hormuz, this narrow, vital corridor, sits at the center of a growing storm. Because in a place where so much of the world's energy flows, even the smallest spark can ignite something massive. As the tension builds, the situation begins to shift from preparation to possibility. Intelligence reports start painting a clearer picture, not of certainty, but of intent. Surveillance drones circle high above the Gulf, feeding real-time data back to command centers. Every movement is tracked, every signal analyzed. And what they're seeing is concerning. Iran's coastal defenses are no longer static. Missile launch platforms are being repositioned. Fast attack boats are dispersing into smaller, harder-to-detect groups. Mobile radar systems flicker on and off, making it harder to lock onto targets. This is not random activity. This is a country preparing for impact. At the same time, U.S. naval forces tighten their formation. Carrier strike groups adjust their distance, carefully balancing between striking range and defensive posture. Submarines remain hidden beneath the surface, invisible but very much part of the equation. Above them, fighter jets maintain constant patrols, ready to respond within minutes. The airspace itself feels charged, like something is about to happen, but hasn't yet. And then comes the next layer. Cyber operations begin intensifying on both sides. Communications are probed. Networks are tested. Small disruptions ripple through systems, not enough to cause panic, but enough to signal capability. In modern warfare, the first shots are not always fired with bullets. Sometimes, they're sent through code. Meanwhile, back on the ground, the 82nd Airborne Division moves closer to readiness. Equipment is checked and rechecked. Weapons are cleaned. Orders are briefed in low voices under dim lighting. There is no panic, no rush, just focus. Because they know what's at stake. A parachute drop into hostile territory is one of the most dangerous operations any soldier can undertake. Timing must be perfect. Coordination must be flawless. And above all, the element of surprise must be preserved. Lose that, and everything changes. Weather conditions become another critical factor. Wind speed, visibility, and altitude all play a role in whether a drop succeeds or turns into chaos. Even a slight miscalculation can scatter troops across miles, breaking cohesion and leaving units exposed. And exposure, in this scenario, could be deadly. Iran's missile systems are designed to respond quickly. If incoming aircraft are detected, there may only be seconds to react. Anti-air defenses could light up the sky, turning what should be a controlled insertion into a high-risk descent under fire. But the U.S. isn't relying on a single approach. Multiple scenarios are being prepared simultaneously. Airdrops, amphibious landings, precision strikes, each one designed to adapt depending on how the situation evolves. Flexibility is key, because no plan survives first contact. At sea, Marine expeditionary units stand ready. Amphibious assault ships carry not just troops, but armored vehicles, attack helicopters, and heavy firepower. If the order is given, they can move fast, launching coordinated assaults that combine air and sea in a matter of hours. This layered approach creates a powerful advantage, but it also increases the stakes. Because once multiple forces engage at once, controlling escalation becomes far more difficult. And Iran knows that, which is why its strategy may not be to win outright, but to complicate everything. By spreading defenses, by creating uncertainty, by forcing the U.S. to commit more resources, Iran can stretch the timeline. And in conflict, time can be just as valuable as territory. The longer the situation drags on, the more pressure builds, not just militarily, but politically. Global markets continue reacting in real time. Oil prices fluctuate with every new report. Shipping companies hesitate to send vessels through the strait. Insurance costs skyrocket. What was once a regional standoff is now a global concern. And that pressure begins to echo back into decision-making. Leaders must now weigh not just military success, but economic consequences. Every move carries risk. Every delay has a cost. And then there's the human factor. Thousands of troops on both sides are now part of this equation. Young soldiers, experienced commanders, pilots, engineers, all positioned at the edge of a potential conflict that could change everything in a matter of hours. They follow orders. They trust the plan. But even the best plans are built on assumptions. And assumptions can fail. As night turns into dawn, the region remains on edge. No official announcements. No confirmed strikes. Just movement, preparation, and anticipation. It's the kind of moment where history is not yet written, but could be at any second. Because in a conflict like this, the difference between tension and action is razor thin. And once that line is crossed, there's no going